In this module, Pharmacovigilance. This module introduces pharmacovigilance as a discipline and explains why systematic drug safety monitoring became a legal requirement worldwide. It builds the vocabulary, the case handling process, and the regulatory map that the rest of the course depends on. Learning outcomes. Explain the purpose and scope of pharmacovigilance and the reasons it exists. Describe the historical events and case studies that shaped modern drug safety regulation. Define the core drug safety terminology, including adverse event, adverse reaction, seriousness, and expectedness. Outline the individual case safety report lifecycle from receipt through to regulatory submission. What pharmacovigilance is. The World Health Organization defines pharmacovigilance as the science and activities relating to the detection, assessment, understanding, and prevention of adverse effects. Its scope covers medicines, vaccines, biological products, herbal remedies, and blood products in clinical development and across the whole marketed life. The aim is not zero risk, but an informed and continuously updated judgment about benefit against risk in real clinical use. The work turns individual patient reports into evidence that changes labeling, prescribing advice, or in some cases, a product's market status. Why pharmacovigilance exists. Pre-authorization trials study a few hundred to a few thousand patients, so reactions rarer than roughly 1 in 1,000 are frequently not detected. Trials routinely exclude children, older people, pregnant women, patients with renal or hepatic impairment, and those on complex co-medication. Follow-up is usually short, so delayed effects such as malignancy, fibrosis, or developmental harm do not appear before authorization. Real practice adds off-label use, medication errors, poor adherence, and drug, food, and herbal interactions that were never studied. Thalidomide and the birth of modern regulation. Thalidomide was marketed from the late 1950s as a sedative and antiemetic, including for morning sickness in pregnancy. It caused severe limb and organ birth defects, and no systematic reporting system existed to detect the pattern quickly. The United Kingdom response included the Committee on Safety of Drugs and, in 1964, the Yellow Card Scheme. The United States passed the Kefauver-Harris Amendments in 1962, requiring proof of efficacy as well as stronger safety oversight. Case studies after thalidomide. Practilol caused oculomucocutaneous syndrome in the 1970s. Wright, 1975, described keratoconjunctivitis sicca, conjunctival scarring, and rashes in 27 patients. Benoxaprofen, marketed as Apren, was withdrawn in 1982 following serious adverse reactions in older patients. Terfenadine was withdrawn in the late 1990s after QT prolongation caused by interaction with drugs that inhibit its metabolism. Sherivastatin, marketed as Baycol, was withdrawn in 2001 because of rhabdomyolysis, a muscle breakdown reaction. Adverse event versus adverse reaction. An adverse event is any untoward medical occurrence in a patient given a medicinal product and does not necessarily have a causal relationship with treatment. An adverse reaction is a response to a medicinal product which is noxious and unintended, where a causal relationship is at least suspected. The difference is causality. Every adverse reaction is an adverse event, but not every adverse event is an adverse reaction. Under 21 CFR 314-80, an adverse drug experience includes overdose, abuse, withdrawal, and failure of expected pharmacological action. Seriousness and expectedness. A case is serious if it results in death, is life-threatening, requires or prolongs inpatient hospitalization, causes persistent or significant disability, or is a congenital anomaly. Important medical events also qualify where they jeopardize the patient and may need intervention to prevent one of the listed outcomes. Serious is a regulatory classification, not a clinical judgment of intensity. A severe headache is not necessarily serious. Unexpected means the reaction is not listed in the current reference safety information, or is more specific or more severe than the listed event. Classifying adverse drug reactions. The Rawlins-Thompson scheme classifies reactions by mechanism, beginning with two categories, Type A and Type B. Type A, augmented. Reactions are dose-related, predictable from the pharmacology, common, and usually have low mortality. Type B, bizarre. Reactions are not dose-related, are unpredictable, are rarer, and carry higher mortality. The scheme was later extended to Type C, chronic, Type D, delayed, Type E, end of use, and Type F, failure of therapy. The Individual Case Safety Report. The Individual Case Safety Report, or ICSR, is the fundamental unit of pharmacovigilance data and the building block of every safety database. A valid case requires 4 minimum criteria: an identifiable reporter, an identifiable patient, a suspect medicinal product, and a suspect adverse reaction. If any one criterion is missing, the report is not valid and cannot be submitted. So follow-up to complete it is a core task. Cases arrive from spontaneous reports, the scientific literature, solicited sources such as patient support programs, clinical trials, and regulatory authorities. The ICSR life cycle. Day 0 is the first calendar day on which anyone in the organization receives information meeting the 4 minimum criteria, including weekends and holidays. Triage screens for validity, seriousness, and whether expedited reporting timelines apply. Then the case is checked against the database for duplicates. Data entry and coding follow, with the reaction coded in MedDRA and the medicinal products coded in WHO drug. Medical review assigns seriousness, expectedness against the reference safety information and a causality assessment, and identifies follow-up questions. Standards, terminologies, and data exchange. MEDRA, the Medical Dictionary for Regulatory Activities, standardizes how reactions, indications, and medical history are coded across the industry. MEDRA has 5 levels: system organ class, high-level group term, high-level term, preferred term, and lowest level term. MEDRA is maintained by the Maintenance and Support Services Organization and releases 2 versions each year, in March and September. WHO drug, maintained by the Uppsala Monitoring Center, provides the equivalent standardized coding for medicinal products and their ingredients. Spontaneous reporting. Strengths and limits. Spontaneous reporting is inexpensive, covers all products and all patients continuously, and has no upper limit on the duration of observation. It is the only practical method for detecting very rare reactions, and it detected most of the withdrawal cases discussed earlier. Underreporting is universal and variable, so the number of reports never equals the number of reactions that actually occurred. There is no denominator, so spontaneous data alone cannot give an incidence rate or a rate comparison between products. The United Kingdom system. The Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency regulates medicines and medical devices in the United Kingdom and runs the Yellow Card scheme. Yellow Card covers medicines, vaccines, blood factors, and immunoglobulins, herbal and homeopathic remedies, medical devices, defective and counterfeit products, and nicotine e-cigarettes. Reports may be submitted by healthcare professionals, patients, and members of the public through the website, app, post, or some clinical IT systems. For established medicines, report all serious suspected adverse reactions, even where the effect is already well recognized. The European Union and global landscape. European Union requirements derive from the 2010 pharmacovigilance legislation and are set out in the Guideline on Good Pharmacovigilance Practices, known as GVP. GVP modules cover systems and quality, the master file, inspections, audits, risk management, case reports, periodic reports, studies, signals, additional monitoring, communication, and risk minimization. EudraVigilance is the European Medicines Agency database for suspected adverse reaction reports. The Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee assesses safety issues. In the United States, 21 CFR 314.80 governs post-marketing reporting, with serious and unexpected cases reported within 15 calendar days. Stakeholders, roles, and outputs. Patients and healthcare professionals generate the primary data. Without their reports, the entire system has nothing to analyze. Marketing authorization holders must operate a pharmacovigilance system, described in the pharmacovigilance system master file and overseen by a qualified person responsible for pharmacovigilance. Contract research organizations, clinical trial sponsors, academia, and the WHO Program for International Drug Monitoring all contribute data and analysis. Typical roles include case processing and medical review, signal management, aggregate reporting, risk management, and pharmacovigilance quality and compliance. That completes this module. The key takeaways and suggested further reading are summarized on the slide. The full references for this module are listed on the slide for your further reading.